Welcome to From the Press Box, the Stark County edition on FridayNightOhio.com. I'm Todd Porter of The Repository.
I'm Joe Frollo of The Repository.
A new episode of From the Press Box can be seen every Tuesday at around noon on FNOhio.com. This is week 11, Joe, of the high school football season, and week 11 means one thing. It means playoffs.
It does, and in Stark County it means familiar teams playing familiar rivals. Over in Division I on Saturday night, McKinley goes to Glen Oak in a rematch of a game you saw the first time around. A lot of people thought that Glen Oak outplayed McKinley for most of that game. They certainly had a lot more in terms of yardage, but McKinley took care of some opportunities and pulled out a 24-19 win.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you what, I think Glen Oak, if you look at that game and broke it down into chunks, Glen Oak probably played better than McKinley for 75% of that game. There was about 6 minutes in that game in the fourth quarter when I thought McKinley dominated that game. When they needed big plays, they got big plays. They had a big interception return to set up a first and goal to go situation at the end of the game that was, that set up the go-ahead touchdown. They also ran the ball effectively in that fourth quarter. They got in their I formation and just pounded the ball at Glen Oak. When McKinley's offense this season seems to be, they want to be that spread team, but the team hasn't kind of grasped that concept yet. When they want to move the football, when they want to pound the ball right at you, and when they need yards, it seems like they go back to old familiarity with them, and that's that I formation. They think they did that in the second half against Massillon last week. Glen Oak, on the other hand, Glen Oak has got 3-4 tailbacks that they've been rotating in there since Drew Ayers went down. Brandon Martin, I think, is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the county. He gets the job done for them. He doesn't put up great numbers, but he gets the job done.
McKinley is coming off of a loss to Massillon in Week 10. Obviously, Massillon going into Hoover off of a win. The Tigers have had a real up-and-down season this year. These two programs have played 3 times in the 21st century, and Massillon's won by 3 blowouts. How much carryover do you think Massillon takes into the playoffs, and how much does Eric Howard make the difference between this game and past years between these two teams?
Yeah, in that Hoover-Massillon game, I think Howard is a great equalizer for North Canton Hoover. However, I will say this, Massillon is the sort of team that can simulate Howard's speed in practice. I don't think J.T. Turner, Massillon's running back, who's already verbally committed to Michigan, I don't think he runs with the kind of power that Howard does, but I think they can simulate that speed. Other than Glen Oak and McKinley, very few Federal League teams have been able to simulate that in practice. I do think, Howard's got he's got phenomenal numbers, almost 1,900 yards rushing. I think he's got close to 30 touchdowns. He's averaging 28 carries a game. But what gets lost in those numbers is the offensive linemen at North Canton Hoover. Dom Boyle and Mark Wiley, Alex Steenrod, Nate Dodds, and Jake Berkshire, they've done a tremendous job. And ever since Louisville dominated them early in the season, they shut down Howard. North Canton was shut out that game 22-0. They couldn't move the football. Louisville got in that 5-3 defense. They played man-to-man on their wide receivers, put 8 guys in the box, dared Hoover to beat them. That's when North Canton Hoover went with Brett Tuladzewski after that game as the quarterback. I think you're going to see Massillon do something very similar to that, get into like a 5-3 look. They've got the athleticism in the back half of that defense to play man-to-man defense on those wide receivers.
Moving over to Division II, Louisville did what it wanted to do in the regular season. It ran the table, won the NBC, and won most of its games going away. They had a little struggle against South there for 3 quarters. They draw a Columbus Independence team that, honestly, probably a lot of people are looking to the regional final already for what should be Louisville and DeSales. How does Louisville keep focus week to week when they probably won't be challenged for another week or two?
Well, what I think Louisville needs to do right now, right away, is they need to get their starters 4 quarters of playing time, because those kids have played primarily a half of football since about week 5 on, because they've blown everybody out. Well, it's week 11, and if they want to make a deep playoff push, their starters have to be accustomed to going 4 quarters. I think they need to do that regardless of the score. Having said that, let's be honest, this is a bye week for Louisville. Louisville's going to roll in week 11. They're going into week 12. Paul Ferrer's got it going on right now at Louisville, and the Leopards are one of the best teams we've seen in Stark County in a long, long time.
Two other NBC teams are playing in Division III. That would be Northwest at Canton South. This is another rematch from earlier in the year. Northwest won 17-14. They scored the last 10 points of that game. Seth Miracle kicked a field goal with 6 seconds on the clock. You know, it's undoubt. No one doubts that Louisville's the #1 team in the NBC, but I think South has a chance here to jump over Northwest and become the '2 team in the NBC going forward.
Yeah, it could be a little bit of a changing of the guard in this week of the season. I like what Canton South has. They have Matt Trissel at quarterback. On the flip side, they have Mike McKinney at linebacker, 2 four-year starters. And if you want to be a great playoff team, you better be strong up the middle on both sides of the ball. And those guys are strong up the middle. You know, both Trissel and McKinney on their respective sides of the ball. I like what Canton South has done. I like the fact that this game is on Canton South's field where they lost the last game to Northwest. You know, there's definitely some motivation there for Canton South to get over that hump. If Canton South is going to change the guard, they have to get over this hump this week. This is a big game for Canton South.
Northwest, on the other hand, they've struggled down the stretch. They lost to Marlington. They needed a big second-half rally to overcome Alliance. Vic Whiting has got to be talking to their guys about it's a new season. It's time to take this forward. We do have 3 other games involving area teams. Tuslaw is at home to LeBray in Division IV. The Mustangs had a great regular season, but they've had great regular seasons before. They're 1-6 since 1999 in the playoffs, and that's obviously something that Tuslaw would like to change.
Yeah, I like the job Nate Held has done at Tuslaw this season, and if you don't take into consideration divisions, I think Nate Held could be the Stark County Coach of the Year for what he's done at Tuslaw this year. Having said that, I would like to see Tuslaw maybe schedule up a little bit in their non-conference to prepare this team for the playoffs.
And in Division VI, we have East Canton going on the road to Norwalk St. Paul and Bridgeport coming into Malvern. Both of those games are on Saturday night. Well, that's all we've got this week for From the Press Box on FridayNightOhio.com, the Stark County edition. Be sure to check back every Tuesday around noon. We'll take you all the way through the playoffs and the state championships here at Paul Brown, Tiger Stadium, and Fawcett Stadium. For the repository, I'm Joe Frollo.
And I'm Todd Porter. We'll see you next week on From the Press Box.